Man, I love happy videos. So, I want to talk about the reception of two of the more major releases that recently came out on Nintendo Switch. First, Octopath Traveler. I did a video a while ago discussing whether or not this game was worth the price because there was some debate going on as to whether or not a game that looks like this should be sold at $60 at full price. And the consumer has spoken. It is very much worth the price. Apparently, so much so, depending on where you live, you may have noticed they haven't been able to keep the freaking game on the shelves. If you follow the Switch, you've probably seen stories like this on it. I mean, Square Enix having to come out and apologize because they can't keep the game stocked, because they can't print copies fast enough. It's just crazy. I don't know what I like more. The simple fact that Octopath Traveler, this phenomenal game, is selling like hotcakes, or just the simple fact that we have people going into stores and buying up all the copies of a game that looks like this, and others want the physical version so bad they're waiting for more to come in stock. I mean, what year is this? And how about our buddy, our pal, Sonic, as well? Sonic Mania Plus was another pretty big release recently. And would you just look at this headline for a second? I mean, is that not a beautiful thing? 52% of the total amount of copies of Sonic Mania Plus sold were on the Nintendo Switch. Going on, 34% were sold on the PS4, and 15% were sold on the Xbox One. Kind of weird, because it was my understanding that there were actually way more PS4s than Nintendo Switches out there in the wild. Weird that we'd see so many more copies sold on the Nintendo Switch. Well, I believe the reasoning is twofold. Besides the obvious, great games sell great on the Nintendo Switch. As the meme goes, this game would be great on Nintendo Switch because the Switch is a system that allows you to play video games on the go, and this is a video game, so you can play it on the go with the Switch, or however that goes. Yeah, everybody likes to poke fun at that argument, but it surfaces so much because it's true. A big draw, especially for a game like this, is the question of, do I want to be able to play the game on the go and on my TV, or just on my TV? How much is a game like this going to benefit from the power of beefier systems? Probably not much. And I think that leads to many who don't just own the Switch, or maybe don't even primarily play on the Switch, to buy the Switch version. I think you have a lot of people, just like I said with the indie games, right, that are more similar to this style. You have a lot of people who have multiple systems still preferring that Switch option because of the portability, and also, which leads into my second point, the collector factor. Like it or not, people tend to have a higher level of affection towards Nintendo generally when it comes to game collecting. This is certainly a multi-tiered situation. I think people associate it with their childhood. There's a nostalgia factor. And with something like the Switch, I think the cards themselves have a unique appeal. Like, there's just something about having the game on those little cards, I think, that makes it more interesting than a disc. And of course, the mobile aspect. I know a lot of people wanted the Wayfarer's Edition, that storybook collector's edition for Octopath Traveler. I mean, RPGs in general are usually highly sought after in terms of collecting. And with Sonic Mania Plus, pretty much the whole reason for this game to exist was to actually get a physical version of the game out there after the game originally released as digital only. But not all Switch games sell so well. It's not typical, I'll admit it, that we see a game sell more on the Nintendo Switch than the PS4. And beyond the games obviously being good, I think this goes to something I've brought up several times in the past: making the Switch a priority. I see people freaking out about Octopath Traveler, crying to bring it on there, says we need a Octopath Traveler on the PS4. Yeah, how does it feel to be on the other end of that port begging, by the way? But in seriousness, these types of releases are super important for Nintendo. Because, like in the case of Octopath Traveler, this is a third-party company partnering up and building a game, a new IP, mind you, from the ground up specifically for the Switch. And fans are rewarding them in turn. That's what's important, that we complete the circle here. When they give us a great game, we need to support it. Again, you only have to look at all the sellouts to see this game is performing way better than they expected. And hopefully that means we could see more companies take a similar chance on Nintendo. Maybe see Square Enix themselves make either more exclusives or bring more of their games over. I mean, come on, can we get the Kingdom Hearts collections on this thing already, please? And yeah, like if anyone else has an idea like this that fits so well with Nintendo theme-wise, I think you could easily mimic this sort of success. And in the case of Sonic, this is a multi-platform game. Again, treating the Switch as a priority, which is also very important. I talked about Shovel Knight before, which moved a similar percentage of its sales on Nintendo hardware. And I think a lot of that comes from just putting in that effort to making the Switch version the best it can be, on par with other systems, as close to on par as you could be, perhaps even better than other systems in some ways. And for God's sake, getting the game out the same day. I mean, imagine, with Sonic Mania Plus, 52% of the total sales were on the Switch. Imagine if they did what so many other devs do, and be like, it's coming out on Xbox One and PS4 first, then maybe, hopefully, someday, on the Switch. That's quite a few sales I think they'd be missing out on. And we see this time and time again. And I know, like, some games, your AAA games, they take a lot more work to get running on the Switch than, say something like Sonic Mania. But you can't tell me there isn't an audience here. And I think while it might not seem like that big of a deal, it is actually really important in terms of getting people, the players, to care about the Switch versions of your games by showing that you, the creators, care. When the developers make the Switch version seem like an afterthought, that's what the players are going to think of them as too. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. I just enjoy highlighting scenarios like this. When we get that perfect symbiotic relationship, the developers do right by the players, who in turn come out to give them that massive support. Things don't always work out that way, especially on the Switch. But let me know your thoughts on these recent Switch success stories in the comments. As always, I'm John Zakari, and thanks for watching.